Good morning and welcome to Mindset Mondays with DTK. This is episode number, well, let me check, 123. This is episode number 123, an ongoing series of live broadcasts designed for folk who are really targeting getting better at being who they be and less distracted by merely getting better at doing what they do. It was originally created really as a playground for trying on new mindsets. And so here's what we want to play with today. It's interesting. I was hanging out with Elaine and my son when I was talking about this quote. And actually, no, Sydney was on the phone, so it was my Middlest. And when I shared the quote with them today, their first response was, "Thank goodness." So let me show this today to start with. It's interesting. Embracing uncertainty. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title until much later. And I think what became relevant very quickly and what became very clear um, was that I think we're all excited to look more excited to look back on this period than we are to live during this period. You know, this life in the time of COVID, and come up with a chapter for this period. In the meantime, we're in the midst of it, and we still it's still being written. But the point is, wow, we're not going to be clear what purpose this chapter served in our individual lives. We can see what's happening writ large in the cultural sense, but I can't tell you what living through this period, both of the pandemic and the cultural upheaval, are going to be for my life, what chapter it's going to represent in my story. And it won't be clear until I look back. But that doesn't mean that I don't take the position of self authorship. Self authorship can become a superpower, but what story are you writing right now? What is it that you want this period to be for you or in your life? What is it you want your world to look like on the other side of this? I think that's the playground that I want to stay in today. Because I realize this fine Monday, I haven't the foggiest what I want this chapter to represent. No, I say I haven't the foggiest. I don't think that's true. I think, no, I know. What I want this period to represent as a chapter in my life is a time for, oh, the word's not right. I want to say reinvention, but that's not it because it's not about reinventing who I am or reinventing my business or reinventing anything. It's inventing something new. And language is super important for me. I don't like the idea of reinventing because it implies that something is going away. And I don't think that's the case for me. Now, I know that's the case for our culture right now with what's happening around race and racism in our culture. There needs to be a reinvention of this culture. There's a lot that needs to be let go. But in my life, in my world, in my business, in my family, it's an opportunity to invent new things. Got a child who's looking at getting married in, God, not that very many months. Got another one who's just graduated from college and beginning to study for the MCATs to start their next chapter. Got another one who just finished freshman year, which means they have no clue what it is they want to do in their life. And it's a chance to begin to invent. Elaine is about to launch a book this September. Mine will be coming out sometime between August, September, and October. But in all of these cases, it's an opportunity to invent a new chapter, a new thread, a new storyline. And that's exciting. It doesn't imply or necessarily include cleaving off anything. It's about what is going to be invented and added and what will be new and different. I can't tell you what culturally our sense of work will look like and what our sense of place will look like. In other words, how we will gather together in community and how we will gather together for work. I think, David, you've got a got a great title to play with for this chapter, How We Started Over. Because what I do know is everything gets to get re-examined. I haven't had a single conversation with a CFO in the last 7 weeks that hasn't included some version of, holy crap, we spend so much money on real estate or space for our offices. That's a magnificent amount of either expense or debt or both. And right now, work is getting done and not in the traditional office space. So, how are large organizations going to be looking at a sense of space going forward? How is that going to change the way we as a culture work? How is this going to change how we gather? The idea of, yes, we have no choice but to embrace the uncertainty now. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title until much later. So, David, is it how we started over or how we figured out we've been doing everything wrong? Hmm. Have how we figured out that we were doing things unconsciously? Because we have been intentionally not reevaluating the way things are done. We wait for complete industries to be disrupted. Only then do we look at how absurd the decisions we made were that led to that disruption being possible. Well, our whole world just got disrupted. Ta-da! Are you willing to look at the choices you had made up until January of this year and the unconscious decisions you were operating under? We have plenty of time of uncertainty, and based on the way the numbers look, things are not going to get any less uncertain anytime soon. Things aren't going to be clear for us for a while. Certainty is not on the horizon, or is it? It's interesting. I have what's sort of beginning to surface is this is an opportunity to decide what it is that we want to see become reality, and then set about creating the conditions to make that what we want to see real, the object reality. So again, it's an opportunity for us to decide what we want to be true, and then go about setting conditions to make that truth reality. This is our chance to play in that entrepreneurial space. We played with this a couple weeks ago. A manager is given a goal, and their job is then to manage the execution of a plan to ensure the highest likelihood that that goal is achieved. Whereas an entrepreneur decides what it is that she wants to be true, and then goes about creating the conditions to make her truth the reality. Isn't that what we all have the opportunity to do right now? Is decide what we want to be true for our lives, and then go about through this uncertainty creating the conditions for that truth to be the reality. It's always the opportunity within uncertainty. This is our invitation to reevaluate all the decisions we're making, conscious and unconscious. and decide what we want to be true. So next week will be the first Monday in the second half of the year. Yeah, yes. We are halfway through 2020. Halfway through the year already. So the question is, what will you create? What do you want to see created for the second half of this year? And as you think about that, what's the title for this chapter? Yeah, David Perry says there's so much in this topic. We want things to go back to more certainty and understand how much creativity lies in the uncertainty and wanting to embrace that to create the future we dream of. What I love most about that, oh my God, what I love most about that, David, is just the idea of embracing the chance to create the future that we want. You know, that presupposes people sit still long enough to dream of that future and to dream of what they want so they can lean into embracing it. And that's what I think this chapter has shaped up to be thus far is the pause. Granted, it was not an elected pause, but the pause that people needed to reevaluate. Shelley Paxson in her book Soulbatical talks about the opportunity to pause throughout one's day and life to service and take care of and nurture their soul so they're not forced like she did to stop their career to recover. The idea is having those soul baticals all the way along the way. Well, we've just had a forced soul batical for the last 3 to 5 months where the world around us had said, stop, pause, regroup. It's the opportunity to embrace the creation of the future that we dream of. So I hope you're taking time during this pause to dream of the future that you want so that you can embrace it. It'll be fascinating in a couple months to look back and see then in the fall what name we put on this chapter. So keep writing this chapter. Keep embracing the uncertainty. This chapter will receive a title, and it will be certain in retrospect. So please join me at facebook.com/group/mindset Monday. Join the conversation in that private Facebook group. I'd love to hear what you think your chapter title is shaping up to be. Knowing full well that it'll be clear later, it's still fun to play with. What do you think yours is? So between now and next week, what mindset will you choose?